week with your daily comedy news. Screen Rant did an article. It's a year-by-year look at the highest-grossing comedy movies of the 1980s. 1980s highest-grossing comedy movie, 9 to 5. They describe it as a brilliant film starring Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, and Dolly Parton as three working women who decide to plot revenge against their overbearing, sexist, and manipulative boss. You probably know the song. I remember going to see that in the theater as a kid, and I would have been 11 years old. Why would I go see that? We used to go see everything. If you're of a certain age, you went to the movies every weekend. 1981, Arthur, Dudley Moore. I don't think I've ever seen this. And you know what? I know I've never seen it. Arthur's an alcoholic billionaire who falls in love with a working-class Queens girl named Linda Marola. I didn't know that. Now I'm interested. I'm from Queens. 1982, Tootsie, another one I saw in the theater for some reason. You know Tootsie. Dustin Hoffman is an out-of-work actor named Michael Dorsey. Michael has a reputation for being very difficult to work with, and when no one wants to hire him, he disguises him as a woman named Dorothy Michaels. It works, and Michael soon finds himself on a popular soap opera. 1983, Terms of Endearment. Didn't see this one. I don't even know if I knew this was a comedy. Shirley MacLaine, Deborah Winger, Jack Nicholson, Danny DeVito, Jeff Daniels, John Lithgow. Come on, Johnny Mac, watch the movie. 1984, Beverly Hills Cop. If you were a relatively new listener, it must have been like a year ago. I may dust it off as a rerun if I ever take a vacation. I deep dove on, there was a TV series, Beverly Hills Cop. Did you know that? You didn't. Go way down the feed and you will find it there. But Beverly Hills Cop, released in December of 84, the movie that made Eddie Murphy a star. Great movie. 1985, Back to the Future. Of course I've seen that. It was the highest grossing film of 1985, beating out Rambo, Rocky IV, and The Color Purple. 1986, that's not a knife. Crocodile Dundee, yes! Made for just $8 million. The movie served as an experiment to see if an Australian film could become popular in the U.S. It did. It grossed $174.8 million in the U.S. market for an $8 million film. Wow. 1987, Three Men and a Baby. Tom Selleck, Steve Guttenberg, Ted Danson, three bachelors forced to adopt fatherhood. Three Men and a Baby proved a surprise success. 1988, Rain Man. Yeah, I guess that is a comedy. Screen Rant writes, while not a straightforward comedy, Rain Man certainly has comedic elements and is often regarded as a brilliant comedy drama. Dustin Hoffman, Tom Cruise, if I teamed them up in a movie today, you'd be like, wow, what a cast. Obviously a great film. 1989, really? Look Who's Talking? Yeah, starring John Travolta, Kirstie Alley, and Bruce Willis's voice as a talking baby named Mikey. You guys like that one? Yeah. It grossed $140 million, which would be $300 million today, and was the fourth highest grossing movie of 1989. Sometimes silly sells. That's what Screen Rant says. All right. The Federalist caught up with Jim Breuer. The subheadline, Jim Breuer on teasing the woke mob during COVID. I've become fearless. Jim said, when's the last time you saw a solid real husband on television? And I'll ask you, why do you think that is? It's very obvious. From the Federalist, on January 26, 2021, a veteran posted a message on the Facebook page of a celebrity with 750,000 followers and a long resume at IMDb. The message read, hey man, 15-year Army vet with nothing. Very down on my luck, hungry, please pray for me, so ready to give up. Breuer responded in two posts, never give up. One of your moments, one of your comments can give life to someone you don't even know. And turn to the great healer, the creator of all. Jim is concerned about how the coronavirus is being exploited to control Americans for political power and financial gain. He's suspicious of the shutdown and the mask mandates. Jim says, not a good intention. The less we think as a society, the more dangerous we become. He argues most political discourse today is akin to studying for a test and then just spitting back the questions and the answers. After a recent radio interview in which he made some playful, stereotypical remarks about Irish, Bostonians, Italian New Yorkers, and Latinos, Twitter erupted with attacks labeling him as a racist incited by an edited clip. The Federalist writes, anyone who has watched Breuer knows such an allegation is ridiculous. Jim said, I was insulted. I was hurt because clearly this human being doesn't know me. That's the problem with Twitter. I know Jim Breuer. I worked with him for a decade, I guess. Been to his house. I know Jim real well. Jim is not racist. Does he paint a word picture with some of the characters he does as he does improv comedy? Absolutely. But he is not a racist. Jim reached out to his followers saying, "The minute I discovered just how much influence you can have in a positive way, just by a simple thing I say or a simple joke I put out there, the minute I discovered how inspiring and healing for people, I was drawn a lot more to that than anything else that comes with it. It keeps me in check." He says, "You know what they used to call therapists back in the day? Friends. We in society have learned that we have to pay for everything. We don't have to pay for everything. Laughter, intention, understanding, a smile, forgiveness, finding common ground is what is going to make society better." He urges fans to step away from the 24/7 news cycle. Jim has always been like that since I knew him. He actually at one point had a remote control and would turn off TVs at airports because he didn't like having CNN in airports. He somehow got some kind of universal remote and he would use to do that. He says, if you turn everything off, stop all of it, and give yourself a month, you'll see how addicted you are. And when you come back, you'll see clearly everything is agenda driven. He talks about how addictive and atomizing cell phones have become for an entire generation of young Americans, including his own kids. He says, "I hate that thing," talking about the cell phones. "They look at it like it's drugs." He wants us all to detox from the news cycle, saying, if you spent even 10% of that time on your wife, husband, child, or someone else you love, your personal life would get better and you could help so many people. Do something you can control that's good, because you can't fight hate with more hate. Let's concentrate on the most important things in life. From the Connecticut Post, Bassem Youssef is an Egyptian comedian often described as the Jon Stewart of the Arab world. He hosted a political satire TV show called Al Bernameg. Hope I got that right. It was the first of its kind in the Middle East. It got up to 30 million viewers each week. He did Daily Show with Jon Stewart a few times. He was named to Time Magazine's most influential list in 2013. Youssef says, "I was a heart surgeon and ready to leave Egypt, and all my life I was mesmerized by Jon Stewart. I took part in the revolution. I realized there were two realities, the real reality of people wanting their freedom and the conspiracy reality, the fake media." That's what Jon Stewart would talk about with American media. He thought it'd be fun to have a YouTube show and do the same thing and expose the lies of the media. His expectations, I had none. I didn't think it would go anywhere, but it blew up. Suddenly I was having offers to be on TV. I never trained for this. I went from YouTube to TV to live theater. Jon Stewart was even on my show. He was eventually arrested and interrogated. He said, "I had to escape. I came to America. No one knew who I was. I was struggling with the fact that maybe the best days of my life were behind me. I needed to reinvent myself for the third or fourth time. Now I had to do comedy in English to an audience that doesn't know me or is just used to my Arabic humor. It was a very challenging transition. It was scary, but it was interesting." You guys know I'll talk about Keegan-Michael Key as much as I can. He's in the Mac Pack. What's the Mac Pack? It's my celebrity man crush group. In my fantasies, I would hang out with all these people. Number one Mac Packer is, of course, Michael Chiklis. You know Michael from The Shield. Tom Cavanaugh. I've been a fan of his since Ed. He's also on The Flash. And I recently added Keegan-Michael Key because I think we can all admit I obviously have a man crush on Keegan-Michael Key. He was out promoting the History of Sketch Comedy podcast, and he said, "I knew Saturday Night Live was different than stand-up. I saw there was some kind of interesting differentiation. The most formative thing for me was, wait a minute, that's a job too?" And I started to become very curious. So I read the Bob Woodward biography of John Belushi called Wired, and I learned about Second City, and I was off to the races from there. One of the sketches he remembers growing up was, there was a guy on SNL named Gary Kroeger. Wow. Yeah, I remember Gary Kroeger. I haven't thought of Gary Kroeger in 40 years? Gary Kroeger did a sketch where he was making a dating videotape. Remember those? You'd go to an office and look at the dating videotapes and watch the videotapes in a VHS machine. That was the thing. Yeah, I was a little young for that, but yeah, that was the thing. In the sketch, he played a dentist. I remember him making the sexy dentist tape. Even at that age, I started to understand what a juxtaposition was, meaning, oh, dentists aren't sexy, and he's a dentist making a sexy video. I felt clever. I was like, oh, I see why this is funny. But Eddie Murphy doing Stevie Wonder was the thing. You'll hear me tell a story in the History of Sketch Comedy about Eddie impersonating Stevie Wonder in a sketch with Stevie Wonder. It's one of the coolest parody sketches I've ever seen because Stevie Wonder is playing a Stevie Wonder impersonator, and Eddie Murphy has the gumption and confidence to say to Stevie Wonder, no, man, you're not doing it right. That's so funny. And how about Mike Siegel? This from the Wall Street Journal. Mike Siegel is a stand-up who performs on a cruise ship. He says, as massive waves crashed over the windows and decks, I performed half my show sitting down because the swaying threw me off balance. That's fun. Siegel says, in the summer of 2015, I performed stand-up comedy on a TV talent competition. The morning after it aired, the phone rang. The guy asked, hey, ever think about doing cruises? Mike says, I hadn't thought about doing cruises much. I'd taken exactly one cruise in my life 30 years ago with some college friends on a week-long booze-fueled lap around the Caribbean. Though I'm hazy on details, I do remember finding the cruise experience confining, overly structured, and I'll say it, boring, tossing my penchant for motion sickness, and I never returned to the open seas. But work is work, and the money being offered was decent. I took the gig, knowing it would come with strings attached. Most cruise ships want clean, family-friendly acts, no swearing, politics, religion, or overtly sexual material. Such rules are the reason many comics won't or can't do cruises. I'm considered a clean act in comedy clubs, but I still got reprimanded on my first cruise for material that would barely raise an eyebrow from The Tonight Show. Living alongside the audience also has numerous drawbacks. On land, I can wipe away the memory of a bad comedy set. On a ship, I'll see the same crowd all week. Hey, are you the comedian? Yeah. Tough crowd last night, huh? Yeah. Are you done with the treadmill? After my first few cruises, I found a reliable escape, the Officers Bar. It's an employees-only pub where you'll find one of the most eclectic menageries of international drinkers this side of Mos Eisley. Entertainers, spa workers, salespeople, engineers, trainers, hotel staff, and of course officers all cutting loose and enjoying heavily discounted adult beverages in the wee hours. Mike hosts the Travel Tales podcast if you want to check him out. That is your comedy news for today. You can follow the show on Spotify, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your shows. And if you like what I do and you'd like to support the show, buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. Here's the shake. So what do? You can give me a one-time $5 donation. I'll buy a nice coffee with it. I'm at the donut chain every morning buying a nice coffee, so I'd appreciate that. Or if you want to, do a regular supporting thing, you can become a subscriber, and $5 a month will just, happen. I do appreciate it. See you tomorrow.